Continuing from the previous episode 467. Chapter 1396. Information. Old man Bao Shan smiled when he saw the completely silent hall. He was clearly aware of the allure of the purifying demon Lotus flame. Hence, he had left the map fragment as the second to last item before taking it out. Many fiery hot pairs of eyes within the large hall were staring at the map fragment. Those present were not ordinary people. Even the purifying demon Lotus flame was a legendary thing to them. They had only heard of it and had never truly seen it. Of course, this did not hinder anyone from coveting it. Anything powerful would ultimately attract countless pairs of greedy eyes regardless of the danger involved. Although this map fragment was not the true purifying demon Lotus flame, one would be able to obtain some information related to the purifying demon Lotus flame by obtaining it. If they could obtain it, the benefits could be described as endless. Ha ha, the owner of this map fragment wishes to exchange it for some medicinal pills. Of course, the quality of the medicinal pills must be at least a 6-colored pill lightning. As for the quantity, that will depend on everyone. Old man Bao Shan smiled. His eyes swept over the hall before he said, "The bidding will begin now. Everyone, please offer your bids." There were many people in the large hall who were interested in this map fragment. Immediately, a hoarse elderly voice said, 3 6-colored pill lightning tier 8 medicinal pills. 4 6-colored pill lightning tier 8 medicinal pills. 5. Many bids were suddenly issued from the large hall within less than 2 short minutes. The hall's atmosphere abruptly became fiery hot. The bidding price swiftly rose in front of old man Bao Shan's smiling eyes. Everyone clearly understood that the map fragment was worth far more than these offers. However, if one could rely on this map fragment to find the purifying Lotus demon flame, this loss would not be worth mentioning. What should we do now? Xiao Yan frowned and softly asked after learning that so many people were interested. Don't be anxious, let's wait. Yao Lao shook his head as he replied. Xiao Yan could only nod his head when he heard Yao Lao's response. He forcefully calmed his heart. The frown on his brows deepened when he heard the continuously rising price. He had indeed underestimated the allure of the purifying demon Lotus flame. Even though it was only a map fragment, it caused all these people to act crazy. The bid continued to rapidly rise amid numerous cries that refused to give in to each other. Within less than 10 minutes, the price had already risen to 9 6-colored pill lightning tier 8 medicinal pills. This bid caused even Xiao Yan's expression to become a little ugly. A bid that involved so many 6-colored pill lightning medicinal pills had exceeded his expectations. Fortunately, the current price had exceeded the point most people could accept. Hence, the number of people bidding also decreased, but everyone knew that these remaining people were truly wealthy individuals. 5 7-colored pill lightning tier 8 medicinal pills. A cold cry that contained some anger suddenly echoed after the previous bid. This price was undoubtedly high, and the large hall quickly became quieter. Many eyes followed the origin of the sound that had been transmitted, but all they saw was a figure completely covered by a black robe. 8 pills. An elderly voice suddenly sounded in a simple manner. Xiao Yan quietly sighed in his heart when he heard this voice. Yao Lao had finally begun to bid. However, Xiao Yan didn't know if Yao Lao would truly be able to obtain the map fragment. After all, the people here were not ordinary individuals. HMPH. The person who had cried out the price earlier snorted when he heard Yao Lao open his mouth to make a bid. The man hesitated for a moment before he clenched his teeth and said, 1 8-colored pill lightning tier 8 medicinal pill. A low uproar appeared within the large hall after his words sounded. Many people had not expected this fellow to take out an 8-colored pill lightning medicinal pill. 3 pills. This voice was still faint, but it suppressed all the voice in the hall. Yao Lao caused that person to give up with a great unwillingness. Xiao Yan sighed in relief when that person ceased speaking. He was just about to speak when Yao Lao's voice appeared beside him. Don't be happy too soon. 5 pills. Xiao Yan's face twitched when he heard a voice filled with a cold sternness. His eyes searched for the origin of the voice that was being transmitted. He found a somewhat skinny figure seated on a stone chair. The skinny figure seemed to have sensed Xiao Yan's eyes since he suddenly turned his head. A pair of dark and stern eyes shot over like sharp arrows from under the dupang, causing space itself to fluctuate. At the same time, an unusual pressure surfaced on Xiao Yan's body. HMPH. Yao Lao let out a cold snort when the pressure formed around them. He randomly waved his sleeve and the invisible pressure was destroyed in an instant. What a frightening strength this person has. Xiao Yan finally recovered and was quietly stunned in his heart while Yao Lao exchanged blows with this mysterious person. Be careful. This person is an expert with half a foot in the Ban Sheng class. Yao Lao softly mentioned. His voice gained a solemnness for the first time. Xiao Yan's expression changed upon hearing this. This spatial trade fair was indeed a place with many hidden experts. 8 pills. Yao Lao coldly cried out after speaking to Xiao Yan. At this moment, his expression had gained a tight frown. Such a price had exceeded his estimate. Ha ha! This friend has bid the price of 8 8-colored pill lightning medicinal pill. Is there anyone who is still going to bid? Old man Bao Shan smiled as he asked a question. Old man Bao Shan's words caused the large hall to become silent for a moment. Many pairs of eyes were thrown toward the skinny man, who had counterbid Yao Lao earlier. That skinny black-robed man smiled in a dark and cold manner when all these gazes swung over. He immediately opened his mouth and said, 1 9-colored pill lightning tier 8 medicinal pill. If you are able to offer a higher price, this map fragment will belong to you. This fellow is really crazy. Everyone present inhaled a gentle breath of cool air when they heard that the black-robed person was willing to take out a 9-colored pill lightning medicinal pill. They shook their heads and quietly made comments in their hearts. Xiao Yan's expression had also turned gloomy at this moment. He also possessed a 9-colored pill lightning medicinal pill in his hand. It was the pill beast that he had obtained from the Do Sheng remains last time. However, his losses would be too frightening if he bid the pill beast. After all, if this pill beast was reared properly, it might even be able to advance to a tier 9 medicinal pill in the future. At that time, its value would soar by hundreds of times. Even a Do Sheng class expert would be attracted by it. He would not take out a medicinal pill with such a potential no matter what. Yao Lao's finger gently pounded against the armrest. Although there was a dupeng covering him, Xiao Yan was aware that his face consisted of a frown at this moment. He pulled his sleeves and slowly shook his head. This was not the moment to be impulsive. Even though they were unable to use proper means to obtain this map fragment, they would still be able to use other means to do so. Yao Lao slowly spread his hand when he saw Xiao Yan. He nodded and a low voice was transmitted into Xiao Yan's ear. The price is too great, but I am already aware of that person's identity. He is an old opponent. This time around, I will coincidentally be able to resolve the conflict from back then. Given Yao Lao's character, he would not simply watch this final map fragment leave. It was just as Xiao Yan had thought. Since they were unable to obtain it through proper means, they could only use some other means. Moreover, it was not the first time that he and Xiao Yan had done this. They also had to use other means in the Black Corner region in order to obtain another map fragment. It seemed that an old show was about to repeat itself. He, that skinny black-robed person laughed in a low voice. After which, his eyes returned to old man Bao Shan at the middle of the hall. He waved his hand and a small snow-white rabbit appeared in it. An extremely dense pill fragrance filled the room the moment it appeared, causing the eyes of many to turn a little red. A 9-colored pill lightning medicinal pill was something that even a Ban Sheng class expert desired. Even less needed to be said about the elite Do Zuns. The skinny black-robed man rubbed this little rabbit with his hand. He also felt some pain, but he clenched his teeth the moment he thought of the purifying demon Lotus flame. A glow rose from his hand that wrapped around the rabbit. After which, it was shot toward old man Bao Shan with lightning-like speed. While this 9-colored medicinal pill rushed across the large hall, many people felt an impulse to snatch it. However, it was fortunate that these people did not lose their reasoning. They did not do anything after struggling with the impulse in their hearts. Old man Bao Shan beckoned with his hand and received the cluster of light. After which, he carefully examined the snow-white rabbit. He sensed the unbelievably pure energy within its body. Only then did he nod his head. His eyes contained a marvel. Clearly, he had not expected someone to take out such a medicinal pill as a bid. This friend, the transaction is complete. This map belongs to you. Old man Bao Shan carefully stored the rabbit. His finger flicked over the ancient map fragment. The map fragment turned into a ray of light that rushed toward the skinny black-robed old man. Finally, the man grabbed it with a pleased smile on his face. Xiao Yan slowly clenched his hand when the ancient map landed in the hands of that black-robed old man. A chill flashed within his dark black eyes. He needed to obtain this purifying demon lotus flame at any cost. Hence, he had to obtain this map fragment even if this old fellow was someone who had half a foot in the Ban Shen class. Ha! The last item of our spatial trade fair is not an object but some information. Although this information will spread through the Central Plains soon, the information we have here should be first-hand. Old man Bao Shan smiled after completing the ancient map transaction. His eyes scanned the hall as he said, "Relax, we will not ask for a reward for this information. However, due to it being a little shocking, we have placed it last." Everyone frowned when they heard old man Bao Shan's words. Everyone in the room stared at him with some doubt. Just what kind of information could old man Bao Shan hold with such regard? Old man Bao Shan smiled as he sensed the many uncertain eyes. His soft voice slowly echoed through the large hall. The legendary Bodhisattva ancient tree, rumored to be able to allow one to break through the ordinary and become a Sheng, saint, has once again appeared after 10,000 years. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Continuing from the previous episode 468. Chapter 1397, Ancient Wasteland Region, Bodhisattva Ancient Tree. Old man Bao Shan's words were like a bomb that caused the entire hall to abruptly turn into an uproar. Some experts were unable to control the shock in their hearts as they suddenly stood up. The Bodhisattva Ancient Tree would enter the top 3 if every natural treasure across the entire Dochi continent were to be ranked. The Bodhisattva Ancient Tree was also known as the Knowledge Reincarnation Tree. This tree would grow one cycle every 1,000 years. It would only mature after 100 cycles. Most things would be eroded after such a long period of time. However, the Bodhisattva Ancient Tree existed outside of time. It could be considered one of the extremely ancient species of the continent. It was rumored that the Bodhisattva Ancient Tree appeared once every 1,000 years and would cause a huge commotion across the continent each time it appeared. Looking back at the long history of the continent, even elite Do Shengs had died while fighting over the Bodhisattva Ancient Tree. According to the records of some ancient books, only one Bodhisattva Ancient Tree grew in this world. It possessed its own intelligence and would hide deep underground after it appeared. No one would be able to find it, and it would only appear in the world when it was ready. Bodhisattva Ancient Tree, becoming a Sheng, saint, immediately. These were not empty words. The interior of the Bodhisattva Ancient Tree was the Bodhisattva heart. Those who obtained it would have their heart transformed into a Bodhisattva heart, and becoming a saint would be a simple task. This was not mere rumor because an old expert had possessed such good luck. After swallowing the Bodhisattva heart, this untalented 2-star Do Zun broke through all the obstacles in his advancement in a simple fashion, and within a short 5 years, he reached the Do Sheng class, shaking the entire continent in the process. This kind of divine effect caused everyone to go crazy. Whoever managed to obtain the Bodhisattva heart meant that they possessed a direct passage to advance to the Do Sheng class, the current peak level of this world. Moreover, even if the Bodhisattva heart was eliminated from the picture, the slightly inferior Bodhisattva seed would also increase the chances of successfully advancing to the Do Sheng class. Although it was not as terrifying as the Bodhisattva heart, it still possessed an irresistible allure to those at the peak of the Do Zun class, since the breakthrough to the Ban Shen class was too difficult and dangerous. Some of the experts at the peak of the Do Zun class might not be able to reach that level even after a lifetime. At this moment, a Bodhisattva seed would make them go insane. In summary, the temptation of the Bodhisattva Ancient Tree to peak experts had reached a crazy stage. One could imagine just what kind of a great uproar this news would stir in the Central Plains. Yao Lao by the side let out a long sigh while Xiao Yan's eyes revealed a stunned expression. One could sense the slight disbelief in his voice. This so-called information caused even someone with his mental fortitude to not remain completely calm. It is actually the Bodhisattva Ancient Tree. Yao Lao muttered after letting out a heavy sigh. Xiao Yan slightly nodded. His finger rubbed his storage ring. There was a Bodhisattva seed inside it. It was rumored that the Bodhisattva seed was able to sense the Bodhisattva Ancient Tree. However, why had he not discovered anything? Could it be he was too far away? Standing at the middle of the large hall, Old Man Bao Shan smiled as he heard everyone inhale a breath of cold air after being shaken by this news. Even he greatly coveted the Bodhisattva ancient tree. If the place it had appeared wasn't too dangerous, he would not have been able to restrain himself from leading his people over to search for the treasure. Old Man Bao Shan, may I know where the Bodhisattva ancient tree has appeared? The shock in the hall continued for a moment before someone took the lead to ask. All the excited eyes present once again gathered on Old Man Bao Shan after this person asked a question. From the looks of it, they would not be able to control themselves and would attack Old Man Bao Shan if he refused to reply. Their reasoning was quite fragile because of the allure of the Bodhisattva ancient tree. Ha ha, everyone can rest assured that this elderly self will not hide anything now that I have spoken. Old Man Bao Shan understood the thoughts in these people's hearts. He would naturally not use this matter as a joke. He laughed. The location where the Bodhisattva ancient tree has appeared is likely not a foreign one. It is the ancient Wasteland region located on the northeastern border of the Central Plains. Ancient Wasteland region? Many exclamations reverberated around the large hall after these words were said. Those experts who had suddenly sat straight up earlier deflated with an anxious expression in their eyes. It is actually located in such a dangerous area. Xiao Yan slightly knit his brows. He had naturally heard about the ancient Wasteland region. That area was probably the oldest place in the current Do-Chi continent. It was also the forbidden ground of all humans. The weather inside was terrible, and poison permeated the air as fierce beasts roamed. These fierce beasts were descendants from ancient times. Some of them were not inferior to any tribe in the current magical beast world with the exception of the ancient void dragon. In other words, even the heaven demon phoenix tribe would perish if they entered. These beasts were bloodthirsty and violent. Although they were not intelligent, their strengths were extremely frightening. Even experts at the peak of the Do-Zun class would not dare to say that they would be able to successfully leave the place alive. This was a truth provided by a countless number of years of blood lessons because many experts had entered the wasteland in search of treasures. However, contact with them was eventually lost. Some renowned experts within the Central Plains were among those who had entered. As an increasing number of experts disappeared in the ancient wasteland region, its dangerous reputation spread further. Eventually, no one dared to step into it. Another factor was that this wasteland was a little far away, so this once dangerous land gradually faded from memory. However, no one had expected the Bodhisattva ancient tree to appear within the ancient wasteland region this time around. No wonder this old fellow would release this kind of information. With the strength of the Reflecting Treasure sect and the other two factions, they would be committing suicide if they entered the ancient wasteland region. They wished to attract more people to enter in order to gain some benefits from the chaos. Yao Lao slowly unraveled his thoughts. He was also deeply aware of the danger of the ancient wasteland region. He also understood why Old Man Bao Shan was so open-minded about sharing such news. Ha ha, every appearance of the Bodhisattva ancient tree results in an unnatural phenomenon. Everyone should gradually be able to sense it within a month. At that time, you will know that I am stating the truth. Old Man Bao Shan smiled as he stated, I have already provided the information to everyone. This spatial trade fair has successfully been completed. Thank you all for participating. The atmosphere in the large hall was quiet for a moment before some people began to stand up before they walked out of the hall. We should also leave. The Bodhisattva ancient tree is indeed a mysterious thing. We should head over to take a look if we find the chance. Yao Lao softly commented when he saw that the trade fair had been concluded. This was a very good opportunity. If they could obtain the Bodhisattva heart, the route to advance to the Do Sheng class would be incomparably smooth. In other words, a Do Sheng would appear in the Falling Star Pavilion. They would then feel more confident if they were to fight the Hall of Souls. However, we must first obtain the ancient map. Yao Lao faintly laughed. He slightly turned his head. That skinny black-robed man, who had successfully bought the ancient map, had turned around and left. A cold smile slid across Yao Lao's face as he glanced at his back. Let's go. Yao Lao got up, after which, he walked out of the large hall without turning his head. Xiao Yan and Tu swiftly followed. They were aware that an intense battle was inevitable. Yao Lao disappeared for a moment after the trade fair was concluded. After which, he returned swiftly before leading Xiao Yan's group out of this realm. He flew to the northwest. Finally, they glided through the desert and stopped on a steep mountain. This is a spot where they must pass. Given those three old demons' characters, they will definitely not take a detour even if they possess a great treasure. Yao Lao looked into the distance and spoke in a faint voice. Teacher, what is the background of those people? Xiao Yan nodded and inquired. An evil and strange sect called the Cloud Rain Sect. This sect rears meat cauldrons to raise one's strength. These so-called meat cauldrons are talented girls who are given a qi method to train. They will bitterly train for over a decade before the do qi within their bodies is absorbed through the Cloud Rain Sect's unique intercourse method. Of course, this kind of qi method is too overbearing. The ladies whose do qi has been absorbed usually die from old age within 10 days. The Cloud Rain Sect has over 1,000 disciples. Moreover, all of them are females, but they are all meat cauldrons for those three old demons to absorb. It is really a shameless sect. Kai Lin's and the little fairy doctor's faces turned a little cold after they heard Yao Lao's explanation. They are indeed shameless and were chased away from the Central Plains back then, but it is unexpected that they have returned. Yao Lao nodded and said, Back then, I had exchanged blows with one of those three and seriously injured him, but I was injured by the other two. Therefore, I did not take that person's life. It is surprising that I would come across them after so many years. These three old demons' evil reputations in the Central Plains were gained much earlier than the Shui He Tianjun you met. The eldest, Tian He Zi, has already reached a 9-change peak Do Zun. The second brother, Dija Zi, has reached the 8th change while the third, Ren He Zi, is at the 6th change. Their combined strength is likely able to contend against an elite Ban Sheng. Surprise flashed across Xiao Yan's eyes when he heard this information. These three old demons were indeed extraordinary. With this kind of strength, one would be considered top-notch even within the Central Plains. No wonder they could take out a 9-colored pill lightning tier 8 medicinal pill. Yao Lao suddenly lifted his head while Xiao Yan was continuing to make inquiries. He looked to the distant horizon and faintly said, They are here. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Continuing from the previous episode 469. Chapter 1398. Three Ghost Scorpion Demon Xiao Yan's group's hearts shook when they heard Yao Lao's words. Their eyes looked to the front where a faint wind lightning sound was present. A couple of dozen seconds later, three black glows suddenly rushed over from the distance. The speed of the three black glows was extremely terrifying. Within a flash, they appeared 1,000 feet away. However, they suddenly appeared to have sensed something when they were just about to enter the mountain where Yao Lao was located. They immediately paused, and three dark, cold and ruthless gazes shot over. They paused on the group on the mountain. Yao Chen, it is actually you. The three of them were stunned when they saw Yao Lao. A furious voice soon appeared. Xiao Yan's eyes observed the other party while these three were exclaiming. The leader was a somewhat skinny figure. His face was dark and stern, and from the looks of it, he was the person who had made the bid at the trade fair earlier. There was another elder and a man, who appeared somewhat younger, behind him. Although the last man appeared young, both of his eyes revealed an age that was not any younger than the other two old demons. Other than the younger-looking man, whose appearance was a little better, the remaining two gave one a dark and chilly feeling. Moreover, the auras that were vaguely emitted from their bodies were quite terrifying. Three he-demon ghosts. It has been a long time since we have met. Yao Lao placed his hands behind him and laughed. You are the person who had bid against the old me earlier? The skinny old man, who was the leader, glared at Yao Chen in a ruthless manner before he suddenly demanded. Yao Lao smiled after seeing Tian He recover. He did not say any unnecessary words. Hand over the ancient map. Tisk tisk. How unexpected. The renowned Yao Zun Jie, Yao Chen, on the continent is doing something like stopping someone and robbing treasure from them. Tian He strangely laughed when he heard Yao Lao's words. Yao Lao smiled and spoke in an unconcerned manner. If it was someone else, I might have thought twice. Fortunately, it is the three of you. Therefore, I do not feel any mental burden. Other people might be considered humans, but I do not regard the few of you as such. HMPH, Yao Chen, don't think that the three of us are afraid of you just because you have advanced to the Ban Sheng class. Back then, we were able to beat you until you fled being injured. We are still able to do so today. The brutal-looking Di He spoke with a dark and cold voice. Why don't you give it a try? We will also be able to resolve our grudges from back then. Yao Lao grinned. He stomped his foot on the ground and his body appeared in front of those three in a ghost-like fashion. Monstrous Do Chi suddenly surged out of his body, and the sky suddenly turned dark. Wild wind raged and whistled across the sky. The expressions of Tian Hezi's group changed when they saw Yao Lao stirring such a force, especially Tian Hezi's expression. Although he was only half a step away from the Ban Sheng class, he understood just how large this difference was. An intense battle was unavoidable if they wished to escape today. Bang! Yao Lao did not give the three of them any extra time. He clenched his hand and dark clouds surged from the sky as a 10,000-foot large fire hand suddenly formed. After which, it explosively hurtled the Hezi trio. Attack together! A dark vicious expression flashed across the eyes of Tian Hezi's group when they saw Yao Lao attacking as he pleased. They let out a furious roar as Do Chi surged from their bodies. After which, they turned into 3,000-foot large light pillars that ruthlessly collided with the enormous flame hand. Bang! The two collided and a frightening wind ripple surged out in all directions. The enormous mountains around were shaken by that energy ripple until they burst apart. HMPH. As a frightening wind swept apart, Tian Hezi and his two brothers' footsteps staggered. They hurriedly took 2 steps back. A muffled voice was emitted from Tian Hezi's throat. He had suffered a small loss in this hurried cooperation of theirs. The strength of this old fellow is so terrifying. The three of them were unable to gain an advantage despite joining hands. The expressions of Tian Hezi's group changed. Their eyes flickered. Suddenly, they turned to Xiaoyan's group on the mountain and sinisterly said, "Third brother, those three are together with this old fellow. Capture them. Remember that they must live." The three of them would definitely enter into a bitter battle if they were to fight Yao Lao. Hence, it was better to capture Xiaoyan's group and use them as hostages. Only then would they be able to successfully escape. Ren Hezi looked into the distance when he heard this. An evil smile slid over his face as he nodded and said, "Give me a couple of minutes." His feet stepped on empty air after his voice sounded. He rushed in the direction of Xiaoyan's group. Yao Lao frowned when he saw this. He was just about to intervene when Tian Hezi and Di Hezi suddenly unleashed the Do Chi within their bodies until their limits. After which, they unleashed a tricky attack from all directions. "You are seeking death." Yao Lao's eyes turned chilly when he saw this. Tian Hezi and the other two could barely fight him with their combined strength, yet they dared to separate. They were really committing suicide. He was not too worried about Xiaoyan's group. Although Ren Hezi was a 6-change peak Do Zun, it would be impossible for him to finish off Xiaoyan's group within a short period of time. Murderous desire surged within Yao Lao's heart. The space around him swiftly became distorted. After which, he exchanged blows with Tian Hezi again, and a frightening energy ripple once again spread across the sky. While Tian Hezi and his brother were pestering Yao Lao, Ren Hezi appeared a short distance in front of Xiaoyan's group with lightning-like speed. His heated eyes suddenly paused on Kai Lin and the little fairy doctor's well-proportioned and lovely figures. "Ha ha, it is unexpected that I can meet 2 exquisite beauties. This is the greatest gain of this trip." Ren Hezi's eyes were incomparably hot as they looked at Kai Lin and the little fairy doctor. The appearance and demeanor of these 2 women was not what those meat cauldrons within the Cloud Rain sect could compare with. They had surpassed everything. Lewd thoughts immediately began to grow wildly within his heart once he saw them. Kai Lin and little fairy doctor's pretty face gradually turned icy as they sensed Ren Hezi's lewd eyes. Do Chi gathered with lightning-like speed in their hands. "He. Die brat. Leave the beauties behind." Ren Hezi licked his lips. A punch was thrown toward Xiaoyan from across a distance. A frightening sonic boom was formed from his fist, and it rumbled across the sky. Bang! Xiaoyan's face was void of expression. His feet abruptly stomped on the ground. The mountain in front of him suddenly blasted apart as a 100-foot large hot lava cylinder shot out. It poured down from the sky and stirred clusters of flames on the mountaintop. Xiaoyan took the opportunity to glance at Yao Lao's battle in the distance after having blocked Ren Hezi's attack. At this moment, Tian Hezi and his brother were in a situation where they were completely overwhelmed. From the looks of the battle, they would not be able to endure for long. Xiaoyan softly sighed in his heart. Both of his hands formed numerous complicated hand seals, and a clan tattoo surfaced between his brows. With its appearance, Xiao Yan's aura soared from the peak of an 8-star Dozun to a 3-change peak Dozun. Ren Hezi was a 6-change peak Dozun expert. He was much stronger than Shui Hezun J. Hence, Xiao Yan had no choice but to be cautious since his opponent was considered the strongest Dozun among those he had met and fought. Brat, you do indeed have some skills. However, the old me dislikes those who enjoy multiple women. You can rest assured that the old me will take good care of these two beauties after you die. Ren Hezi let out a sharp laugh after sensing Xiao Yan's soaring aura. Bang! Kai Lin's face turned extremely cold when she heard Ren Hezi's obscene words. Her lovely figure leapt into the sky and dark clouds churned. Her figure turned into a 10,000-foot-long 7-colored heaven-swallowing python. Her enormous body was hidden within the dark cloud, appearing like a dragon. Oh, this beauty's actual body is the extinct 7-colored heaven-swallowing python. Ha ha, how delicious. The old me likes it. Ren Hezi was startled when he saw Kai Lin turn into a 7-colored heaven-swallowing python, but he soon let out a loud laugh. Crash! Ren Hezi's loud laugh had just sounded when a colorful thunderbolt suddenly smashed down from the dark clouds. After having transformed, Kai Lin's aura had also soared. She was equivalent to an 8-star Dozun human expert. However, Ren Hezi merely waved his sleeve in the face of such an attack. A wave of majestic Do Qi forcefully vanquished her attack. Woeful poison body, activate. The little fairy doctor's face was icy cold. Her hand seals changed, and her beautiful long black hair suddenly turned silvery white. A Do Qi glow that contained a fatal poison rushed toward Ren Hezi with lightning-like speed. Huh? This beauty has the woeful poison body? Ha ha! All of you are exquisite. Ren Hezi once again laughed out loud as he sensed the lethal poison within the pillar, but he did not appear relaxed. His body hurriedly pulled back as he dodged this lethal poison pillar. The woeful poison body was too intense. It would be somewhat troublesome if he touched even a minuscule amount. These two beauties are really ruthless. One is a 7-colored heaven-swallowing python while the other has a woeful poison body. With the both of them joining hands, an ordinary peak Dozun would really be no match for them. However, they have unfortunately met this elderly self. Ren Hezi laughed in a strange manner. The lewd smile on his face became even denser, but he was just about to attack when his expression suddenly changed. A terrifying energy ripple that caused a fear to appear in his heart suddenly unfurled from the distance. A shock flashed across Ren Hezi's eyes when he sensed this energy ripple that could destroy everything. He hurriedly raised his head and saw 5 clusters of flames suspended in front of the black-clothed young man on the mountaintop. Other than the last type of flame, the remaining 4 types of flames caused his expression to drastically change. 4 types of heavenly flames? Xiao Yan saw the drastic change on Ren Hezi's face, but his expression did not change. A dense cold smile was lifted on the corner of his mouth. This was the first time he had added the life-transforming flame, after having refined the bone-chilling flame. 4 types of heavenly flame and 1 fake heavenly flame. It was a 5-colored angry Buddha lotus flame that Xiao Yan had never used before. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Continuing from the previous episode 470. Chapter 1399. 4.5-colored angry Buddha lotus flame. This brat is really mysterious. He only possesses the strength of someone at the peak of an 8-star Dozun, yet he is able to unleash such a frightening strength. Ren Hezi's expression was volatile as he stared at the flames churning in Xiao Yan's hands, and a great wave rose within his heart. However, this shock quickly turned into a dark ruthlessness. He suddenly threw a punch and the space in front of him emitted a crashing sound as it burst apart. A dozens of foot large dark black spatial line appeared. That spatial crack became a black ruthless poisonous snake that rushed toward Xiao Yan with lightning-like speed. Bang! An enormous spatial crack quickly spread across the sky, but it was still a couple hundred feet away from Xiao Yan when a couple of colorful thunderbolts suddenly smashed down from the sky. They ruthlessly struck the spreading crack, causing the spatial crack to pause momentarily before it quickly exploded apart. The expression in Ren Heezi's eyes sank when his attack was blocked. He lifted his eyes to look at the enormous seven-colored heaven-swallowing python in the sky and strangely laughed. "Beauty, since you insist on intervening, the old me shall finish off the both of you first." Ren Heezi's body flashed after he uttered those words. He immediately turned into a ray of light that shot toward the seven-colored heaven-swallowing python in the sky. A punch was immediately thrown ruthlessly forward, and a low and deep sonic boom was formed as it whizzed toward the Kai Lin. Kai Lin's 1,000-foot-long tail was suddenly swung when she saw Ren Heezi's attack. The frightening strength caused space itself to tear apart. It ruthlessly collided with the powerful palm wind, and a frightening storm swept across the sky. The seven-colored heaven-swallowing python, which Kai Lin had turned into, was forced back thousands of feet. "He, beauty, you are no match for this elderly self." Ren Heezi lewdly laughed after forcing back Kai Lin with a punch. He was just about to turn around when many sharp rushing wind sounds appeared beside his ear, and dochi pillars with lethal poisons trickily pierced toward a couple of fatal spots on his body. Ren Heezi frowned when he sensed this attack. His feet stepped on empty air and the space behind him distorted into something like a metal wall. The dochi pillars collided with it and emitted clear, clang sounds. "Two beauties, why do you need to fight all out for this brat? The both of you will definitely enjoy yourselves by following the old me." Ren Heezi laughed, but before he could finish speaking, he saw Xiao Yan press the 5 types of flames together in the distance. His face involuntarily twitched. This madman, he is actually merging the heavenly flames. The look in Ren Heezi's eyes was altered. Although he didn't know why this brat was doing something so crazy, his instincts told him that he would end up dying if he allowed this brat to continue. He immediately rotated his body and ceased bothering with Kai Lin and the little fairy doctor. He turned into a ray of light that shot toward Xiao Yan. "Xiao Yan, be careful." The little fairy doctor hurriedly issued a reminder when she saw Ren Heezi move. She also hurriedly moved her body and followed. Xiao Yan lifted his head when he sensed the intense sound of rushing wind blow toward him. Xiao Yan looked at Ren Heezi's dense dark face as he headed his way. A cold laugh sounded from Ren Heezi. Green-red bone wings spread swiftly behind Xiao Yan and a silver glow flashed under his feet. His body appeared 1,000 feet away, causing Ren Heezi to miss. What frightening speed! Ren Heezi felt shock materialize in his heart when he saw Xiao Yan dodge him in such a relaxed manner. Before he could continue chasing Xiao Yan, 2 extremely ferocious attacks were launched from behind him. Those attacks came from Kai Lin and the little fairy doctor, who had followed him over. Ren Heezi did not dare to allow these 2, who had joined hands, to randomly attack him. He had no choice but to turn around. Do-chi surged out from his body as he ruthlessly collided with the 2 attacks behind him. Bang! The 3 of them engaged in an intense battle. Thunder-like explosions resounded across the sky as wave after wave of frightening force spread like floodwater. They shook the sky until space became distorted. Moan! Cao Lin and the little fairy doctor emitted a groan from their mouths when they violently collided with Ren Heezi. Their bodies were forced back. Although their bodies' constitutions were different from others, there was too wide a gap between Ren Heezi and them. It was difficult for them to win even if they joined hands. Although they did not possess the strength to be victorious, the 2 of them continued to persevere. They completely ignored the injuries that had appeared in their bodies from the counterattack. Their bodies had just stabilized when many lightning-like attacks continued to strike Ren Heezi. They caused Ren Heezi to react with chaotic responses. While their battle had become extremely heated, Tian Heezi's and Di Heezi's faces had become a little pale as they fought Yao Lao. The 2 of them together were no match for Yao Lao. If they weren't great at cooperating, their defenses would have long since been breached. Even though this was the case, it was obvious that they were unable to endure for long. "Third brother, what are you doing? Why are you still showing mercy to ladies at this moment? Are you seeking death?" Tian Heezi and his brother turned paler after they were ruthlessly forced back by Yao Lao once again. Their eyes glanced into the distance as they involuntarily cried out. None of them had expected Ren Heezi to be held back by 2 ladies whose strength did not exceed that of an 8-star Dozun. The pressure around Tian Heezi and his brother suddenly increased after their furious voices sounded. 1,000 feet large flame fist fell from the sky and ruthlessly smashed into them. Although they had Do Chi protecting them, that frightening wind still struck the both of them until they spat out a mouthful of fresh blood and flew backwards. This is bad. Big Brother's group cannot endure any longer. Ren Heezi's heart sank when he saw Tien Heezi and his brother spit out blood and withdraw. Since I am unable to capture that brat, I shall capture a beauty as a hostage. Otherwise, we will be finished today. This thought lingered within Ren Heezi's heart. He gave up on capturing Xiao Yan as his palm shattered an enormous colorful thunderbolt. After which, his large hand suddenly grabbed at the little fairy doctor. The space around her instantly stilled. Bang! The little fairy doctor's expression changed when she sensed space still around her. Do Chi surged from her body, causing the solid space around her to tremble, but she was not able to break free. Tisk tisk. Beauty, the old me shall bring you with me this time around. Ren Heezi's figure flashed away while the little fairy doctor was attempting to shatter the distorted space and retreat. He appeared in front of the little fairy doctor and gave her a lewd smile. His large hand reached toward her. Woo! Kai Lin in the sky felt her heart sink when she saw this person give up on targeting Xiao Yan. Instead, he had decided to capture the little fairy doctor. She hurriedly activated the thunderbolt strength within the dark clouds and shot them toward Ren Heezi from all directions. Ren Heezi merely clenched his hand when these attacks came down, and they were completely shattered by a distortion in space. Beauty, you are mine. Ren Heezi let out a strange laugh after shattering all the thunderbolts. His eyes were extremely heated as he looked at the expression on the little fairy doctor's face. His hand was about to grab her shoulder. It is too early for you to be happy. As Ren Heezi's large hand was about to grab the little fairy doctor, a cold laugh suddenly reverberated behind him. The Ren Heezi's face changed when he heard this voice. He suddenly turned around and his eyes shrank. An exquisite basin-sized 5-colored fire lotus cut through the air and rushed his way. This fire lotus contained 5 colors and fire seedlings continued to rise around it. A frightening extermination force emanated from it. Even Ren Heezi felt his limbs become ice-cold because of this annihilation force. Such a might was comparable to some Tien-class middle-level Do skills. Thick earth bell, Ren Heezi's limbs might have been icy cold, but he did not lose his reasoning. His hand seals rapidly changed as Do Chi surged from his body in all directions and an enormous bell quickly appeared. His body quickly hid within it. Sizzle! An enormous snake tail rushed down from the sky when Ren Heezi used his defensive Do skill. It swiftly wrapped around the little fairy doctor and pulled her away. If you wish to find a beauty, you can go and find one in hell. Xiao Yan's expression was dark and cold as he glanced at Ren Heezi in the large bell. Ren Heezi's eyes had revealed a panic. A cold smile was lifted on the corner of Xiao Yan's mouth as the bone wings on his back were flapped. His body withdrew with lightning-like speed. At the same time, the seal formed by his hands changed. Explode! After this word was spat out from Xiao Yan's mouth, the 5-colored fire lotus suddenly paused next to the bell shape. It subsequently exploded in front of Ren Heezi's shocked eyes. Bang! The entire place trembled because of this explosion. All the mountains within a 10,000-foot radius emitted a boom as they were blasted into dust. In an instant, the mountain range had turned into a desert. Sand and rocks flew while smoke permeated the air. A 5-colored fire lotus, no, this could only be described as a 4.5-colored angry Buddha lotus flame, was this terrifying. Forget about Ren Heezi. Under this frightening explosion, even an expert with Tien Heezi's strength would be turned into nothing in an instant. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Continuing from the previous episode 471. Chapter 1400. Obtaining the ancient map. A thick dust spread across the sky. The surrounding mountains vanished in the blink of an eye. The area within a 10,000-foot radius turned into flat land. Even a large rock did not exist. The enormous heaven-swallowing python shook in the distant sky. It quickly turned into an enchanting figure. With a wave of her sleeve, a wild wind blew and suppressed the sand and dust permeating over air around her. As the sand and dust fell, a black-clothed skinny figure appeared within Kai Lin's and the little fairy doctor's sight. Both ladies heaved a sigh of relief within their hearts when they saw that Xiao Yan was fine. Xiao Yan wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. This was the first time that he had unleashed an angry Buddha lotus flame created from 5 types of flames. Its might had exceeded his expectations. Of course, its exhaustion was also quite frightening. Even with his current strength, his body still felt empty after unleashing this fire lotus. Xiao Yan let out a long sigh from his mouth. He lifted his head, and his eyes swept over the spot where Ren Hezi had been located earlier. Currently, that spot was completely empty. There was no sign of anyone present. Ren Hezi's aura had disappeared with his figure. Nothing was left, and he seemed to vanish from this world. Killing an Elite 6 Change Peak Dozun with just one strike, this was the might of the merger of 4 types of heavenly flames and a fake heavenly flame. One could imagine just how frightening Xiao Yan's strength would be if he could truly merge 5 types of heavenly flames. It was likely that even a true elite Ban Sheng would be turned into nothing by that one strike. "Are you all right?" Kai Lin and the little fairy doctor quickly appeared beside Xiao Yan. They hurriedly inquired when they saw his somewhat pale face. "I'm fine." Xiao Yan took out a medicinal pill and stuffed it into his mouth. He shook his head. The exhaustion of an angry Buddha lotus flame soared each time a flame was added. Hence, even though his strength had rose, he still felt it was difficult to use this fire lotus. The frightening activity that was created by Xiao Yan was naturally sensed by Yao Lao's opponents in the distance. That terrifying extermination strength from earlier caused even Yao Lao to feel a palpitation in his heart. The strength that was formed from the merger of heavenly flames was really too terrifying. However, the only one in the world who could perfectly control heavenly flames, which naturally resisted each other, was Xiao Yan, since he practiced the flame mantra, and also possessed an extremely powerful spiritual strength. Third brother? Tian Hezi and his brother were stunned by this unexpected situation. They looked around the massive plains below as their bodies involuntarily shuddered. Their eyes were incomparably frightened as they looked at the black-clothed young man in the sky. Even they were unable to create such a frightening destructive force, yet this brat, who seemed to be a peak 8-star Dozun, was able to achieve such a force. This brat is too mysterious. Di Hezi swallowed a mouthful of saliva as he muttered to himself. "Where is third brother?" The corner of Tian Hezi's mouth twitched. He quickly recovered and hurriedly swept his eyes around, but he was shocked to discover that he was unable to sense Ren Hezi's aura. It seems that he has been blasted apart by this brat until nothing remained. Di Hezi's voice was filled with disbelief. He had never expected Ren Hezi, whose strength had reached a 6-change peak Dozun, to end up meeting such a fate because of this brat. A shock surged into Tian Hezi's eyes when he heard this. Even if he used all his strength, it was impossible to destroy Ren Hezi until nothing remained. "That brat, let's quickly leave." A dense fear finally surged into Tian Hezi's heart at this moment. His eyes were afraid as they looked at Xiao Yan in the distance. If Xiao Yan were to throw another one of those damn things over, he was not confident that he could survive such a frightening explosion. He lost the courage to continue battling, and with a low cry, he turned around and fled. Di Hezi nodded when he heard Tian Hezi's words. Remaining behind at this moment was suicidal. "Will you be able to leave?" However, an elderly laughter suddenly resounded across the sky when those two were planning to escape amid this chaos. Soon after, a lifelike giant flame hand was once again formed in the sky. After which, it shuttled through air with lightning-like speed as it grabbed at Tian Hezi and his brother. "Yao Chen, you should not go overboard." Tian Hezi viciously let out a screech when he saw Yao Lao attacking again. At the same time, both he and Di Hezi hurriedly turned around. Powerful Do Qi erupted from their palms and ruthlessly collided with the enormous flame palm. "It doesn't matter if the both of you die." Yao Lao coldly laughed. His attack became even more vicious. With a wave of his sleeve, his large flame hand forcefully shattered all their Do skills and ruthlessly slammed into their bodies. Bang! Tian Hezi and his brother were like cannonballs as they ruthlessly flew after suffering such a heavy attack. They forcefully landed on the ground and formed 2,000-foot-wide pits. Grug. Tian Hezi's and his brother's faces were ghastly while they stayed in the large pits. A dense blood trace hung on the corner of their mouths. Their clothes had been shattered at this moment. Their eyes became extremely vicious as they stared at Yao Lao's group in the sky, but they did not charge forward. Their bodies moved as they endured their serious injuries and separated, fleeing in two different directions. Yao Lao slammed his foot down after seeing the two flee. His body seemed to teleport as he appeared in front of Di He. He grabbed with his large hand and space itself sealed around Di He's body. The old me will drag you along even if I die. Di He's eyes were blood red and ferocious as they stared at Yao Lao even if his body could not move. The Do Qi in his body became chaotic. This fellow was planning on self-destructing at this moment. Yao Lao was cold and indifferent as he stared at Di He. His palm was as swift as lightning as it smashed into Di He's chest. A destructive force surged into Di He's body like floodwater, and an instant later, it destroyed all of his life force. The chaotic Do Qi within Di He's body swiftly disappeared at this instant and the life within his eyes quickly vanished. He slowly lowered his head. This old ghost, whose immoral reputation was once renowned across the Central Plains, had finally died today. Yao Lao took Di He's storage ring after killing him. He tossed it toward Xiao Yan's group. After which, his eyes were indifferent as they followed the direction Tian He had fled. He informed Xiao Yan's group in a low voice, "Check if the ancient map is inside. I will chase that fellow." Yao Lao's figure vanished the moment his words sounded. His aura chased after Tian He with great speed. Xiao Yan caught the storage ring after watching Yao Lao's figure disappeared. He spread his other hand and another storage ring was revealed. It naturally belonged to Ren He, C, D. Di He and Ren He were currently dead, and the spiritual imprints on their storage rings were extremely vulnerable. Xiao Yan swept over the spiritual imprints, and they were removed. After which, his spiritual strength examined the rings, and his brows were knit. "It's not in them?" Kai Lin asked after seeing Xiao Yan's knit brows. Perhaps it is with Tian He. He is, after all, the big brother." Xiao Yan shook his head. He immediately clenched his hand, and a flickering golden scroll suddenly appeared in his hand. "What is this?" Cao Lin and the little fairy doctor were startled when they saw this somewhat familiar scroll. The King Kong glass body that had been auctioned at the trade fair. It is unexpected that Di He had gotten his hands on it. It has really benefited us. Xiao Yan held the scroll and involuntarily laughed. This King Kong glass body was a Tian-class low-level Do skill. Earlier, Xiao Yan had been interested in it, but he had ultimately not bid for it. He even felt a little regretful afterwards. Unexpectedly, this thing was delivered into his hands. We did not spend any money, but we ended up obtaining a lot of benefits. The little fairy doctor covered her mouth and softly laughed. These three people had used women as meat cauldrons to train. They deserved such a fate. Kai Lin indifferently remarked. Xiao Yan nodded. These three fellows had done all sorts of evil things in their lives and had ruined an unknown number of ladies. It was retribution for them to end up with such a fate. I wonder how things are on teacher's side. Xiao Yan lifted his head. His eyes looked in the direction where Yao Lao had disappeared as he wondered. Relax, given Yao Lao's strength, Tian He will not be able to pull off any tricks. The little fairy doctor replied. Xiao Yan nodded. He was just about to speak when the rushing sound of wind was transmitted from the horizon, and a familiar figure hurried over with lightning-like speed. The familiar figure appeared in front of Xiao Yan and the two ladies within a couple of flashes. That figure was Yao Lao, who had chased after Tian He earlier. Haha, it is really enjoyable this time around. Yao Lao loudly laughed. He could not resist the joy within his heart the moment he appeared. These three he-demon ghosts had been enemies with him since a long ago. He had gotten rid of a blotch in his heart by being able to finish them off. Teacher? Xiao Yan smiled and asked. Yes. Yao Lao knew what Xiao Yan was thinking. He immediately smiled and extended his hand as an ancient map fragment appeared in it. It clearly looked like the final map fragment. Xiao Yan heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the ancient map fragment. His hands trembled as he took this ancient map fragment. He had searched for all the map fragments for over a decade in order to gather them all. It was really the case of the heavens not letting those who truly put in effort down. He had gathered all of the map fragments. Purifying demonic lotus flame, you will ultimately be mine. An extreme excitement surged into Xiao Yan's eyes as he looked at the ancient map fragment in his hand. Mountains are a lush green in a desert? I swear this author forgets where they are. Agreed. We can remove the lush green. C. I have no idea how a storage ring can survive an explosion that can kill Ren He Z, but well. I guess it is really well made. Has to be really well made. I've been trying to figure out why Xiao Yan has been ignoring his opponent's storage rings for so long. It's like the author forgets about them. They ask what it is even though they find the scroll familiar? I think this might be a filler to increase the word count. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible.